This week, Pam dodged a big bullet, but her friend wasn't as fortunate. Listen as the web just gets more tangled and more lives are shattered by the actions of one man. And later, at least one listener wonders if it's possible for a mother to be too protective of her children. Welcome to the talking phase. Hello and welcome to the Talking Phase podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am for today's show. Now, the reason I'm so excited is because we've taken a few weeks off. As most of you know, Pam's been traveling. I've been traveling. A lot of our previous episodes were recorded, a week or two or three or four in advance. And so I'm just really happy to get back on schedule. Before we get into today's show, Brian, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Tom, the master of editing. Love it that we can just pre-record a bunch of shows and nobody's the wiser. Looking forward to today's show.
Awesome.
Wow. He said that really fast. I was just glad that he got introduced before me.
What I was going to say age before beauty, but neither of those fit because Brian's not older or prettier,
I see the pecking order changes sometimes, but that's okay. I have the remnants of a cold that I came back from France with, but at least I was not sick in France, which is all that really matters. We had an absolutely amazing vacation. We started out in Paris. We did a few days of nonstop, totally American sightseeing of everything my daughter could ever want to see in Paris in case she never goes back, which of course she will go back. And then we jumped on a train for 5 hours and ended up in the south of France and stayed in Nice for a week. And I've never been there before. And I have never seen a sunset more beautiful than the sunset over the ocean in Nice. I recommend everybody go at least once just to see that. So it was an absolutely amazing vacation. My only complaint is how hard the bed and the pillow is no matter where you stay in Europe, because for some reason Europeans clearly don't believe in comfort when they're sleeping. And nobody has shipped in sand to the beaches in Nice. So when you go to the beach in Nice, it is nothing but stones, not sharp, jagged stones, but round, beautiful stones that nobody should ever have to sit on when they go to a beach. So if you don't know that about Nice, you have to stay at a beach club when you go there. And we did that. We lived life rough at the beach clubs in Nice, and I had the best time with Nikki. So if you don't already follow us on Instagram, it's Mother and Daughter Abroad, and you can see all of our content from Paris and Nice over there. And we would love it if you follow us. So that is my shout out to Nikki. How was your week? Did you do anything exciting while I was in France?
Well, like we've already said, I was in Salt Lake for a week. Then I was in San Diego and LA and then Seattle. And I was all over the place. And then next week, Brian and I are both in Salt Lake for some business. So there's lots of travel happening. And I think Brian and I are going to be traveling. We're going to be traveling fools.
That's great, though. At least you have company. You guys have
we
each
won't be
other's
together.
Company.
Normally, we won't be together.
That's too bad. But now we're all back in our homes for the moment. And something really kind of bizarre happened last week when I got back from France. I have a friend, pretty good friend, actually. And she texted me, and she doesn't normally text me. So I was surprised. I thought she was just saying hi, saw that I had gotten back on Facebook. But she texted me about this guy that I'd say about 6 months ago, we were at a dinner, and I had just broken up with somebody that I had had a situationship with. And she said, listen, if you're looking for a quote unquote good time, somebody to hang out with, I have the perfect guy for you. And she showed me his picture, and he was very handsome. And she said, but listen, he's kind of hard to nail down. And, he's really just good to have a great time with. So if you want to meet him, let me know. And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, I'm not really into those kind of relationships. So I'm going to pass on that. And, I knew after that, a few months later, I saw her at another event. And she mentioned to me that she had been seeing him. So I guess it was good that I wasn't seeing him because she was seeing him. And she was texting me to let me know that were in a group, and it's a really, really big Facebook group. It's huge here in Raleigh and Durham, but it's all over the United States. It's called Are We Dating the Same Guy? And we can talk about it a little bit more, but it's a group that helps women to get a little bit of information about men before they go on a first date or after a couple dates, and they're looking for just something to make them feel better about that person, no horror stories. And so it's a great place for solidarity among women. And there's not a whole hell of a lot of that these days.
Woman power.
Yeah. And so she told me that she had seen this guy that she tried to set me up with, that she was dating in the group. And I'm sure that's surprising. I have seen guys I have dated in the group. So not too shocking to see him pop up. But somebody was asking about him, and a couple women had chimed in that, yeah, they had dated him, but it was nothing serious. Don't take it serious. But then somebody else jumped in and said, he's married.
Uh-oh.
And it was, I guess, kind of chaotic after that. I didn't see this conversation until later, but I guess 3 or 4 different women in the group all started talking about the fact that they had been seeing him, I guess, around the same time. I would assume sleeping with him. And he had been married, kind of still a newlywed for 2 years. He's been married to somebody. And so, of course, one of the women who knows his now wife said she was going to tell his wife that.
Okay, so hold on.
Okay.
Recap. Friend tries to set you up. You say no for whatever reason.
Right.
So friend starts dating this guy, or dating, hooking up, one way or another. They're having some sort of a relationship of some sort. And she's been doing that for just 2 or 3 months.
I would say probably a little bit longer than that, 3 or 4 months.
Okay. So 4 months. And so she's just scrolling this Facebook group.
Yeah, as we do.
Okay. And by the way, before we prep for this show, I'd never even heard of such a thing. And we're going to have to talk a little bit about this show, or this group. But so she's scrolling this group. Why is another question we're going to have to get to. But, and she sees this guy, his picture, I assume. It's probably pictures mostly, or is it?
Yeah, it is. It's pictures.
Okay. And
from
so
the profile.
Okay. So from his dating profile. So she sees his dating profile pic and says, what the hell is he doing here? And starts reading. So she didn't put him there. She just found him there.
Right. She never thought he was married. I think that they saw each other enough that she really just thought that he was maybe a little bit of a player. She wasn't looking for a relationship. She was out of a relationship and just having a good time. Don't forget on Facebook that if you're in a group, you don't have to go to that group to see people. It shows up on your news feed. So I don't know whether she randomly just saw it on her own news feed or was scrolling in that group looking for possibly somebody else that she had matched with. I have no idea. We didn't get into that.
But either way, so she sees his picture. She starts reading about this guy that she's been seeing. And that's how she finds out that he's sleeping, or at least seeing other women, and that he's married.
Yeah, that is how she found out. And she was mortified. And of course, she's a great girl. She's not going to see him anymore. And she did say, and I would think this is the kind of guy who's, recently married, and he's in multiple dating apps looking for other women. If his wife is smart enough to end the marriage after getting this information, my friend has little doubt that he will come crawling back, because, I'm sure they had a good thing going, but she will absolutely not be interested in him anymore.
Oh my gosh. So this group, it's called what? Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Are We Dating the Same Guy? And it's literally in I think it's in every city and state. We have 37,000 members in Raleigh and Durham. It's one group, but there's spinoff groups, but
sure. Yeah. So as we were prepping for this, again, I'd never heard of such a thing, and I'm mortified by it for several reasons.
Okay.
But as I looked into it, so here in Atlanta, there are 52,000 people in the Atlanta version, and there are 53,000 in the Salt Lake version. And, those are the obviously I came from Salt Lake.
That's huge for Salt Lake, isn't it? 53,000 women.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so here's the thing about this group that just, I don't know. I don't even know how to start talking about the group at all, because what the tragic thing is that there's a need. I mean, this is not me saying I can't believe women do this. No, I can't believe that women need to do this. It just shows you how scared they are of men. This goes back to that man versus bear.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for a few years. I was thinking about the 80s and the 90s and how, you met somebody out and struck up a conversation and you had no way to research that person. Now we have, Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and, TikTok and a million ways that you can research somebody's background. But at the end of the day, this group is serving an entirely different purpose by women being able to warn other women about men who may have been more like a bear than a man on a date or a second date or in a relationship. I don't know. I have used this group since my divorce. I have used this group every time that I felt like a talking phase was going well with somebody and the guy seemed really nice. I would go and search in this group for that guy, just to see what I could find. And 90% of the time I could find that person in this group. Not always terrible, but they were in there.
But again, and I've never seen this group, obviously, but so are you searching by name? Before you said it was by picture.
Well, I mean, if you're scrolling, you're seeing pictures, but yeah, there's a lot of rules in this group. You can't screenshot, you can't share it with any men that you might be friends with that are named in the group. I learned the hard way. You cannot defend a man in this group if somebody posts them.
Of course.
There's a lot of very, very strict rules in this group, because it's all women and it is a very safe place to talk about something that might have happened on a date that you don't want another woman
unless you're defending someone.
Well, I'll be the first to tell you that, I was dating somebody and he had an argument with a woman that had nothing to do with dating. They had never dated. And she put up his picture in the group and just said, "Do not date this man." And I was shocked. It came across my news feed. I saw the post, I heard about it from multiple people, and I commented underneath that and said, "This is a lie. And as a matter of fact, I'm dating him right now. So I know for a fact this is a lie." And whoever runs this group, and nobody that I know knows who that is, kicked me out immediately from the group. And so I had to find another way back in. So I had a back door and a new name to get back in there.
Okay, well, so that brings up, okay, here's the thing. Just today, somebody commented on one of our previous episodes that sometimes they find me abrasive because I'm so opinionated, and that's okay. But what you're saying is the guy you were dating, somebody didn't like a conversation they had, so they put him up there and said, "Don't date this guy."
Yes.
And then you get on there and say, "Oh, he's a really nice guy," and you're the one that gets booted out.
Well,
that's
she got booted out also.
Right? Okay, why?
I honestly, to this day, have no idea why. The only thing I could guess is that she knew I was going to tell him, which if you're dating somebody, of course, you're going to tell them when they pop up in this group, something, this was something that had nothing to do with dating. So this needed to be handled in a whole nother group. So I had to tell him. Everybody, all of my friends that are in this group, and that's people that I'm not even close with, but I know hundreds of women in the group. A lot of them reached out and tried to get me reinstated in the group. But at that point, it was more important to me to defend him than it was for me to stay in the group. But when it didn't work out, I was very upset to not be in the group. So I had to find a way back in there.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, is you get booted out for defending him. She gets booted out for telling a lie about him or talking about something that has nothing to do with dating. Right. Even though it doesn't make any sense to me. But here's the other question, though. it sounds to me like there are no controls whatsoever over, so there's no fact checking. And so if someone doesn't like me because of this podcast, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knows I live in Atlanta, so maybe I show up on the Atlanta "Are we dating the same guy" page because Tom's abrasive.
100% possible.
See, that's some bullshit right
100%
there.
possible. I'm sorry, what did you say?
That's some bullshit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can see that from your perspective. From a man's perspective, I can see, it's kind of just like 2024. We live in an era right now, and I am a woman and I am pro women, but we live in an era where it is guilty until proven innocent for men, man versus bear. I have the man versus bear conversation with friends all the time, and I always say that I would pick the man. But then again, I'm not walking in a forest by myself with a big burly man following me, and I'm out there by myself. So then would I choose the man? Probably not. We have this basic fear instilled in us in 2024 that wasn't there a decade or two ago.
Well, yeah, but to me, this is like, I don't know. I feel punished, even though, I don't know if my name is in this or my picture is in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, by the way, somebody feel free to join the Atlanta group and tell me, and we won't tell on you. I would be very interested, or in the Salt Lake one for that matter, because
Right.
I used to live in Salt Lake. I would be interested to know if I'm in there and what people say. But I guess what it comes down to for me is the possibility or the probability of abuse. I don't like the way this guy chews. Therefore, I'm going to put him up there and say he's a stalker. There's nothing out there that could prevent them from doing that, right?
Well, no, but I think that's extreme. I am in the group, and I have scrolled that group for years, and I've never seen anything derogatory about somebody, like they smell, or they didn't pay for my dinner, or he snored. I've not seen things like that in this group. I feel like the women, for the most part, clearly not all the time, but for the most part, I feel like the women are using this group as the tool it is intended to be used for. Like that man who was married. That's the kind of thing that's getting out there. I actually saw a woman posting asking for information about a guy, and I recognized him, and I saw that she was getting ready to go on a date with him. And I had gone on a date with him a few weeks prior to that. And at the end of the date, it was dark out. When I parked, it was light, and I'd parked in a parking lot that was behind a restaurant. When I walked out to my car, unfortunately with him, it was dark and there was no light in that parking lot. And we were saying goodnight at my car, and he leaned in to kiss me. And I felt immediately fearful that I was out there in the middle of nowhere. It had been a fine date, but I didn't feel like there was a connection. I didn't plan on seeing him again. So I turned my face a little bit during the kiss, and he kind of landed on my cheek. And he put his hand underneath my chin and tried to turn my head. And I said,
Wow.
No, thank you. And I told him I enjoyed the night, but I needed to get going. And he tried to press me back into the inside of my car. And I pushed him as hard as I could, and I closed my door, and I called my daughter as I drove home. And by the time I got home, he sent me a text and said, I had a really great time tonight. I'd love to see you again. So completely unaware of his behavior. And then I spelled out exactly what happened at that end of that date, in my opinion. And he said, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Does this mean there's no chance for a second date? So men are a little oblivious at times, but when I saw him come up in this group, I immediately told that story. And it's up to that woman whether she wants to still go out with him and park in the lit parking lot and not put herself at risk. I had obviously never made that mistake again, but I felt like I had something to offer in that conversation. And so I can't look at the group as a negative, but I can definitely look at probably a few of the people that have put up posts in there that weren't true as negatives.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to say this group is a bad thing. I'm just, in fact, it is a bad thing that it's required. That makes me sad. That is tragic.
Yeah.
But I just wish and I don't have a good idea for it, how to try to put some fact checking behind it. Cause
You can't.
as I was Googling these groups to try and figure out if they are all over the place, I found in several cities groups called Victims of Are We Dating the Same Girl or
Men.
Guy?
Yeah.
And they were private groups. I did not join them, but there are thousands of people that have joined those. And who knows, maybe the guy that you just described, maybe he's in that Victims of group as well. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure he considers himself a victim.
Right. And by the way, I have to ask, when you turned your cheek, did you literally say out loud, "No, thank you"?
I don't even know. Did I say that? I said, "No, thank you." I don't remember what I said. I think I just said, I had a nice, I turned my cheek and said, you know what? I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think I said, "No, thank you." If I said that, that was incorrect. And it's just part of my cold. I made it very clear that I didn't want the kiss. And I definitely, when he grabbed my face and tried to kiss me again, I did allow the kiss to continue, but completely out of fear. And then when he tried to press me back into my car, I was able to push him and close my door, but I was petrified. And I'm 5'11". So, he was about the same height as me. He was bigger than me. But I have not often felt fear on a date. And I've been dating for almost 5 years. But that's how it feels to pick the bear over the man. It's moments like those that kind of are etched in you. I don't remember his name. I remember the date. I remember the end of the date. I've told the story multiple times. I am grateful for groups like Are We Dating the Same Guy? But that doesn't mean that if somebody just said, "Oh, I went out with him and it didn't work out," or "He didn't treat me the way I wanted to be treated," and I see a ton of that in there. That doesn't mean I wouldn't go out with somebody. I just think because somebody doesn't treat one woman the way that she wanted to be treated doesn't mean he's not going to treat another woman, or if he ghosted, or if he was dating multiple people. You don't know all of the story from any Facebook group or anybody unless it's a good friend of yours. So I would tell any woman, take everything with a grain of salt, but use the information that's offered to you at the same time.
And it's interesting, often on this show and probably 100 times on TikTok, I have tried to stop the people who say women are like this and men are like this. Cause I always said, your genitalia does not dictate your behavior.
Right.
Or it shouldn't dictate your behavior. Well, again, as I was Googling this, I run across probably a sister group of Are We Dating the Same Guy called Are We Dating the Same Girl? And it was interesting because then I started comparing, and what did we say in Raleigh? There are 39,000 people in the Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Right.
There are 529 people in the Are We Dating the Same Girl for Raleigh. So instead of 39,000, it's 529. And in Atlanta, the Are We Dating the Same Guy has 52,000. Are We Dating the Same Girl? 197.
Well, that's still a lot more there than here. Bigger city.
No. Raleigh is 529. Atlanta is 197.
Oh, smaller.
And Salt Lake City doesn't have a Are We Dating the Same Girl page. So it's clear that men are just not scared and they don't feel the need for this, which again, not surprising. And by the way, the Are We Dating the Same Girl page here in Atlanta is an open group. It is not a private group. So I went and looked at it and I scrolled the first, 20 or 30 posts. Every single one of them was a spam post. All it was doing was saying, "Hey, if you're thinking your girl is cheating, send a message to me." So even the group itself is a scam.
Right.
And so I'm really glad to hear that women are working to protect each other. I'm really sad that women have to work together to protect themselves. But I'm glad it's there.
And I have nothing but love for that group. And to get into that group, you have to jump through quite a few hoops. And there are rules. If they find out you lied or, something like that, you get immediately kicked out of the group. I mean, they are doing their best to monitor the group and to keep men out of the group so they don't, have a lot of men telling other men, hey, you need to stop being so rapey because they're talking about you over in, are you dating the same guy? But I mean, there's a lot of that in there. And so my takeaway is that a lot of women have had a lot of really scary experiences. And I'm grateful that we have a place to go and do a little PI work before you go on a first or second date with somebody.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we probably beat that one to death. But before we move on, I am going to ask everybody who's listening to take a minute and rate and review our podcast. And also, if you are a member or have joined your local Facebook group, Are We Dating the Same Guy? Write a little comment. I would be very interested to hear. Don't break any rules. I don't want you to get booted out or anything, but
don't send us a screenshot.
Yeah, no screenshots, but I am interested. Write the comment in whatever app you're listening to us on, or send us an email at talkingphase@gmail.com. I would love to hear your thoughts. Very interested, especially from the men, if you knew about it. I had no idea that it even existed until Pam told me this story the other day, and it kind of freaked me out. And again, despite the fact that some people think I'm abrasive, I'm a pretty nice guy. I think I have a decent heart. And so I don't think that I'm on there as a negative, but it wouldn't surprise me based on some of the things you've told me. So anyway, really fascinated by this. And with that, Pam, what are we doing next?
I don't know. I was waiting to see if we had any mail.
You've got mail.
There it is.
It's like you ask and you shall receive. So I actually really love this email today. It says, "Hi, Pam and Tom. Apparently, I am one of the few male listeners. Probably that is not true. That is what my girlfriend says. But I enjoy listening to your podcast every week. My girlfriend turned me onto it, and I am hooked. Sometimes I listen with her, and allows for some good conversation. Our issue is that she has kids, and I don't. And although I am open to meeting her kids, we haven't found the right time. She is protective of them, understandably, after going through a bad relationship breakup with their dad. Do you think that this is okay? Or does it indicate a larger issue that I haven't met them? We both seem open to it, but she is scared and I am in no rush. We have been together for 2 years and our kids are teens.
Wow.
For any feedback, I will definitely have us both listen to your sound advice if you pick this letter. Cheers. Signed, childless in the Midwest, but willing to change it for my girlfriend someday." And that is such a male sign off. That is so long. I love it. I appreciate this email. I actually just emailed him today to let him know that we were reading it today, and said he knew we would get to it eventually. And here we are. And I have a lot of thoughts on this, being a woman who has dated with children, but I didn't know if you wanted to start out with some thoughts before I launched into mine.
Well, I was listening to the email and I'd read it once, but I don't think I picked the 2 years part up until you just read it out loud. And I think you've been dating someone for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
How is that even physically possible to not meet their kids in 2 years?
It would not be physically possible for me. A couple of the things that cross my mind is that, yes, this is a personal decision for a mom to make. But what is wrong with this relationship after 2 years? I mean, they're grown-ups. If they are planning a future together, wouldn't they want to know sooner than later,
right,
that the kids and the boyfriend can get along? If they're working towards marriage, this makes no sense to me. But the fact that neither one of them are in a huge hurry, and yet it seems like they're quasi open to it, what's the holdup?
So, okay, I don't think that, man, I have so many thoughts. The fact that they've gone 2 years states very clearly that neither one of them is in a hurry, because duh. Yeah. But the other thing is, I'm open to meeting her kids. We haven't found the right time. Again, for 2 years, it's like you'd have to hide them.
I don't think it was they haven't found the right time. I
That's what it
think that
says.
I think that I think neither one of them is in a hurry. Maybe
It
they
literally
aren't
says, "We
planning.
haven't found the right time."
Oh, I don't know why that didn't sit with me. Hold on. I'm open to meeting your kids. Okay. I take it back. I see it clearly.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
it
haven't
seems
found the right
impossible.
time.
Don't you guys ever just sit around and watch TV? That's the right time.
Yeah,
Go to the
it's
freaking
like,
park.
childless is coming over. Kids, run out the back door and play with your friends, or go see your dad, or leave for work, or how?
I think it's easier than that. They're teens. I imagine the dad is still in the picture. It's very easy in a casual relationship to make plans to see your partner only when your kids aren't there. I mean, I've done that for 3 to 6 months when I dated my ex, who was my second ex. I didn't let him meet my daughter until we had been dating for, I think, 4 or 5 months, until I at least knew that we were on the same page. And then I really wanted him to meet Nikki, and it went great. And that seems to me to be the normal, what is normal, but that seemed normal to me because I knew we wanted a relationship.
I just think that childless's girlfriend, and again, he's open to it. Childless is open to it. So I think she's the one keeping him away. And I wonder, is she A, too protective, or B, suspicious of him for some reason? If she is, why the hell is she still with him?
Well, that never occurred to me.
What?
It never occurred to me she was suspicious. It occurred to me that she's not sure he's the one. And she doesn't want her kids to get attached or even get to know somebody that she's not sure she wants to spend the rest of her life with. And in that situation, whether it's 2 years or 5 years, as long as they're just spinning their wheels and killing time, that makes sense to me. But what if they are thinking about a future together? And what if he wants kids? Because he doesn't have any kids yet. So are they going to wait to have him meet the kids until they're ready to get married and have kids? And how is that going to affect her kids and how they feel about not having met this man for all this time? They're teenagers. They're not stupid anymore.
Yeah, just stupid anymore.
Well, I mean, like, we can kind of like pull the wool over their head when they're 8 and 9, but like, they're teenagers. They have to know that mom has a boyfriend, right?
Right. This whole thing just makes me go, there's so much, I don't know, distrust or suspicion or lack of commitment, or
right.
Again, it seems to me that for 2 years, I mean, they make plans to go out on a Friday night after the kids go over to see their dad, for example.
Right.
In 2 years, plans have never changed once. That's the thing. I mean, I was divorced and I saw my kids 3 or 4 nights a week, but sometimes plans change. So if my ex had made plans, or if I had made plans with someone, I don't know. It just seems like they have to, the keeping these two parties apart, the boyfriend and the kids apart for 2 years, is more work than anything.
Yeah,
anyway.
No, I would agree. And I think it's clearly not that serious a relationship. That was my overall takeaway, is 2 years. They haven't met the kids. They haven't talked about getting married or having kids of their own, because then they would have to think about her kids. Nobody's in a hurry. Like, I think that they're just having a good time. He's open to it, but she hasn't pushed for it. So nobody really wants it, is how I read that.
You are always so nice.
Well, I just think they're having a good time. I feel like if you're thinking, this is my person, I want to marry this guy, or I want to marry this girl, you want to meet their kids. What if the kids are not nice people? What if they're going to be little terrors or big terrors or make somebody miserable? You know, he doesn't know what he's signing on for. He's never met these kids. How serious can it be?
Well, his question was, do you think this is okay, or does it indicate a larger issue that I haven't met them? I think it indicates a much larger issue. Big fat all capital yes.
I think we have I know for a fact he's going to listen to this podcast, and there's no question that he's got to be shaking his head to some of this. But hopefully he's thinking to himself, wow, do I want to marry her? Because if I do, I need to meet these kids and make sure that that's a good fit. And if not, maybe they need to like have a talk about that. And if they're just having a good time, I'm fine with that also.
Well, again, I just think that the fact that he's asking this question to me means that it's not just a good time for him.
Right. It's on his mind. Why isn't she pushing it? So yes, I do lean towards this being a her problem. I would imagine nobody came between him and her ex. And if they did, they weren't that serious, and she's scared.
Yeah.
But it's 2 years, lady.
It's time. Yeah, it's 2 years.
It's time.
It would be a really interesting thing to ask, and childless, feel free to fill us in. It would be interesting to know how long she's been divorced.
Yeah.
Because if she's been divorced for 2 years and 1 month and they've been together for 2 years, that's different than if she's been divorced for 12 years, never dated anybody. You know what I'm saying? The timing is a huge component that we don't have information on. But either way, I think, like you said, I think this is a her problem more than anything. And maybe childless has a criminal record that she knows about and that we don't. We don't know. But
I'm positive I'm going to find out in an email that he does not have a criminal record. He just seemed like a really nice guy that isn't sure what he's supposed to do next. He probably doesn't want to lose her, so he doesn't want to push. And I respect that, but this is the rest of your life. And I hope that both of you will listen to the podcast, and I hope that you will sit down and have a conversation and have an absolutely amazing weekend this weekend with the kids. And it goes really smooth.
Yes. I hope with the kids, that's the key.
Right. I wish nothing but happiness to anybody who's been in a relationship for 2 years. And when there's kids involved, I think, the more people that love them, the better.
Agreed.
So I hope that we have helped. You have anything else?
Nope. I think we hit it.
I just think we just wrap that up with a bow. So with that said, we love your emails. I especially loved getting an email from a guy. We've gotten a few of those lately. So please keep sending them. It's talkingphase@gmail.com. As you know, I read all of the emails. I will reply right away. And as soon as we have you slated for a date, I will let you know when we're going to read it on the podcast. And so please keep sending those emails in. We love hearing from you.
Outstanding. And as always, I already asked everybody to rate and review, but I'm going to ask one more time. Thank you all for listening. Take just a second, give us 5 stars on whatever app you're listening to this on right now. Be sure to share the podcast with your friends and your family. I always like to say, put a little disclaimer in there that it's not because you think they need it, just because it's entertaining. We do this every single Friday. We try to drop these about 8 o'clock in the morning on Fridays, but sometimes I screw it up. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And so with that, until next Friday, this is Pam and Tom signing off.
Have a great day. Have a great weekend, month. It's almost the holidays. Have a good Halloween.